I'll be honest, I didn't expect to like The Bride. I went in with the 1935 version fully formed in my head. Elsa Lanchester's performance and the few minutes that she had created an icon. And I read the reviews, a lot of them, and they weren't kind. So I sat down with low expectations and a pen ready to be proved right. But I wasn't. The Bride, written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, is a genuinely strange, genuinely ambitious, and genuinely uneven film that takes nearly 2 hours to find itself. And then when it does find itself, it finds something really real. This is not a perfect film, but I think in many ways it's a very honest one. And honesty, it turns out, that is rarer and more valuable than perfection. So this will not be a spoiler-free review, and I can't wait to talk about it. But before I do that, I better introduce myself because, hello, my name is Cassidy Krieger from Hollywoodland Photos. This channel is all about kind of everything old Hollywood, so 1930s till now. So I guess this channel is about everything Hollywood. So if you like movies and film and classic literature and adaptations, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll be so appreciative. So what kind of film is The Bride? Because about 40 minutes in, I asked myself a question. What is this film trying to be? And I want to be honest about that because that confusion isn't necessarily a criticism. Some films earn their strangeness. Some films are genuinely difficult to categorize because they're trying to do something that doesn't really have a category yet. But it is a real feeling that stayed with me for the entire runtime. Is it a horror film? No, not really. There's very little that frightens you. I'm not a horror film person, so if it was, I would have hated it. Is it a romance? Partly, but it keeps undercutting the romance every time it builds. Is it a feminist statement? It's trying to be, and at its best moments, it is. But it actually is, and I say this as somebody who makes films and watches a lot of them and reads a lot of screenplays. It's a road movie. Two outsiders against the world running and finding each other in the chaos. 1930s America as a backdrop for people who don't belong anywhere. Think Bonnie and Clyde, think Thelma and Louise, but with Frankenstein's monster behind the steering wheel. Once I understood that, and once I accepted that this film was going to operate by road movie logic rather than horror logic, a lot of things started to click into place for me. Tonal shifts that felt jarring started to feel a little bit more deliberate. The comedy beats started to feel structural rather than accidental. And Jessie Buckley's performance started to make complete sense to me because road movies are about becoming. And this film to me felt like it was entirely about a woman becoming herself, even if it took us 2 hours to get there. Let's talk about Jessie Buckley, who's about to win an Academy Award for Hamnet. And I think she is easily one of the most exciting talents out there at the moment. This film lives or dies on her performance. And the truth is, it is a bit uneven, but when it works, it really, really works. She's asked to do an enormous amount in this film, something that most actors would shrink from, but she takes it on and takes it in her stride. She is dead, then she's alive, then she's possessed by Mary Shelley, then she's herself, whoever that is, then she's a writer, then a fiancée, then a woman who bites a man's tongue out and cries about it immediately afterwards. That is not a normal character arc, and Buckley commits to every single beat of it without an apology. I've been training as an actor since I was 6 years old. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'd have to speak to every acting coach I've ever worked with. How do I do this? Incredible. Because the early Mary Shelley scenes, the convulsing, the British accent are genuinely strange and unlike anything else in the film. And she throws herself into it completely. There's no vanity in it. It's the quieter moments of this film that stayed with me really the most, especially with Jessie Buckley's performance. Like when she pulled out a man's tongue, she said to Frank, "Did I pull that man's tongue out?" And she says it like she can't believe what she's capable of. And that is not a moment that's written in the script. That moment is an actor trying to understand something about her character that goes beyond what's written and is a hallmark of a really, really great actor. She feels like a woman that contains multitudes of rage and conscience, violence and grief, chaos and tenderness, and can't always reconcile them. And to me, that sounds not monstrous, but incredibly human. Where the performance loses me occasionally is in the middle section, the road montage, the happiness kind of beats, the romance section, the kind of everything before everything's lost. It occasionally feels like Buckley's waiting for the film to give her something real to do again. And then it delivers. When she says, "I was dead, I was fine, you did this," delivered at the end of a 2-hour film with the weight of everything that came before it, that line alone justifies the performance. Without Buckley, this film just doesn't work. With her, it almost does. Now let's talk about Frank, the monster, Frankenstein's monster, called Frank in this film. Because Christian Bale does something I didn't expect. He makes you feel sorry for him. And I mean that as a genuine compliment, not a criticism for this film. Not a concern about the story, just a straight observation about a piece of acting. Bale's monster is not Boris Karloff's. He is not frightening. He is not inhuman. He doesn't lumber or lurch or terrorize. He hides. He wears a mask. He moves carefully through a world that has no place for him. And he's modeled his entire sense of being on a Hollywood actor called Ronnie Reed. And Ronnie Reed is his idea of what a man should look like, should sound like, and should be. And the scene that I think that got to me the most in this film is where Frank finds Ronnie Reed at a party and he tells him sincerely and vulnerably, without armor, "I credit you and you alone for my survival." I get emotional because I can relate to that so deeply. Because then Ronnie Reed laughs in his face. I really felt that, and I think most people will feel that because most of us have something like that. An artist, a film, a book, a song, something that's kept you alive through the worst of it all. And the idea of standing in front of that thing and having it laugh at you, that's not horror. Actually, that is horror cinema to me. That can't get more horrific than that. So here's what I keep coming back to. The 1935 bride, played by Elsa Lanchester, needed no journey. She arrived already knowing what she wouldn't accept. She had no conscience, no doubt, no searching, no road, no name, just a hiss and a scream, and it was enough. The 2026 bride needed 2 hours. She needed to be killed and revived and possessed and named and unnamed and renamed. She needs to kill and cry and riot and bite and grieve and love and lose. She needs all of the above before she can say, "I'm not anybody's bride." And here's the question I sat with all throughout this film. Does the journey make the arrival more powerful? Or does the 1935 bride's immediate, instinctive, unjustified refusal remain the more radical act? I've thought about this a lot, and I think the honest answer is both, but differently. The 1935 bride is radical because she needed nothing to refuse. No philosophy, no permission, no Mary Shelley telling her resistance to tyrants is obedience to God, no road movie building her toward herself. She just knew. The 2026 bride is radical because she refused anyway after everything. After being named by him, after pity and grief and love and loss, after admitting she would love Frank until the end of time, she still refused to be anybody's bride, and rage that has to be survived toward is different from rage that was always there. Not lesser, just different. And perhaps more true to how most women actually arrive at refusal, not in an electric instant, but after a very, very, very long road. But let's be honest about the problems, because I said this film was uneven and I meant it. And I think the major problem is this film is afraid of its own emotional truth. Every time it builds genuine momentum, every time it earns a moment of real devastation, it deflects. Frank has just been humiliated by his idol. His heart is broken in one of the most vulnerable scenes in the film, and the audience is open and feeling. And then the film pivots to a dance of putting on the Ritz. A dance sequence obviously lifted directly from Young Frankenstein, but it was just like, why is that there? After that really heartbreaking moment that could have gone a different way, you've put a whole dance number on where everyone's in a trance and dancing. Maybe someone can explain that to me, but maybe there's a deeper meaning to that I just didn't pick up. But I just don't think it was a creative choice that served the film. And let's also talk about the Mary Shelley possession, because the opening act gives us something genuinely extraordinary. Buckley convulsing as Mary Shelley possesses her body, and it's unlike anything else in the film. And then Maggie Gyllenhaal quietly steps back from it. Shelley remains in the film as a voice and a presence, but the full bodily possession, the strangeness, the physicality, the comedy horror of it largely disappears after the first act. And I kind of wish it had gone the distance. Because that device, a dead woman possessing a revived woman to tell a story the world never let her finish, is one of the most interesting in the film, and I think it deserved more room. And then there's the marketing. I love marketing. I've worked in marketing for a very long time. I'm obsessed with marketing. And this film arrived with almost no marketing, and that's not the film's fault. That's the studio's fault. There was no campaign, no presence. If you compare it to Wuthering Heights, which was everywhere, their marketing was a masterclass in marketing. This was such a letdown because it was a film directed by a woman, written by a woman, centered entirely on a woman's journey to selfhood, and released around the time of International Women's Day, and released into the world kind of quietly. I don't even think I've seen an ad on TV for it. I know that's not how we really market stuff anymore, but there should have been something somewhere. I haven't seen anything at all, at least in Australia. So I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions about what that says. Maybe the studio didn't think it was worth the money, but it had an $80 million budget, so you'd want to reap your money back somehow. But here's what I want to be really clear about. Even though these might be criticisms of the film, they are not reasons not to see it. Because the film that exists around these failures is genuinely, I think, worth your time. So here's what I keep coming back to, because I really did go into this expecting to be let down, and I wasn't. I really love The Bride of Frankenstein, the 1935 film. And so here's what I want to say to that 1935 bride, the woman I just spent my last video celebrating, which I will link if you want to go watch it. What I want to say to her is I still think you're one of the most radical things Hollywood ever produced. You needed nothing to refuse. No road, no riot, no Mary Shelley daring you, no 2 hours of becoming, you just knew. But the 2026 bride taught me something that the 1935 bride couldn't. That knowing sometimes takes time, that the road to your own name and journey is long and strange and funny and devastating and not always coherent. The 1935 bride hissed, the 2026 bride screamed, 90 years apart, same answer. Go see it, because I think the bad reviews are wrong, but I think you should go see it for yourself and make your own decision. And Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale, they deserve a full cinema. They're incredible.